Hello, friends and family. Thank you once again for spending a little bit of your time with me. Today's entry is We came in dead last, but we had the most fun. I often write notes about things my children say and do. I don't want their earliest days to slip away too quickly, and there are lessons to be learned from children. Well over a year ago, in the spring of 2019, my son taught me one such lesson, a lesson worth sharing. At the end of a typical school year, our elementary has a sort of track and field day. The grade school students come and participate in a number of activities. The event generally coincides with our high school May term, so I'm not able to attend the entire day. It's fine. Our high school, middle school, and elementary buildings are all connected, so I usually get to watch an event or two between our May term activities. After the 2019 field day, I asked my then 8-year-old son Mickey about the rest of the day. He told me about the different events and how he had done, but one particular story has stuck in my mind since that day. Mickey told me about the three-legged race. He described how he and his partner kept falling down. He laughed and said, "We came in dead last, but we had the most fun." That had me thinking about ego. Mickey was not burdened by ego in that moment. It would have been easy to be embarrassed by a last place finish. At his age and throughout most of my life, I think I would have been frustrated by that. Not Mickey, though. He understood the situation for what it was. No one was qualifying for the three-legged race world championships that day. It wasn't a life or death scenario. There was nothing tangible riding on the outcome. It was a three-legged race at an elementary field day. It was supposed to be fun. And according to Mickey, he had the most fun. And in that regard, I suppose he won. When looking at motivation in athletics, and in all endeavors really, there is task orientation and there is ego orientation. Basically, task orientation is when a person concentrates on the development of a specific skill or objective. Ego orientation is focused more on winning or looking good. Ideally, in the classroom, in athletics, in life, we want to be more task-oriented than ego-oriented. In a classroom setting, we want students to focus on learning the material, not getting an A. In sports, we want athletes to focus on developing specific skills instead of winning. In life, we need to focus on the task before us rather than some broad notion of success. Concepts like winning and success are too broad and too complex to be the central goal. There are a lot of little things that go into winning an athletic competition, for instance. But if we focus on performing the individual tasks to the best of our abilities, the winning takes care of itself. Winning is an outcome. Plus, when we are only focused on the end result, we risk selling ourselves short. Athletes with a high ego orientation would rather compete against an athletically inferior team in order to increase the likelihood of winning. An athlete with a stronger task orientation wants to compete against the best in order to bring out his or her best. That being said, a little ego isn't all bad. In order to be great at something, one has to want to be great. The best blend for success in any field is to be primarily focused on the task with just enough ego to stay competitive. The key is keeping our egos in check. Left to their own devices, our egos tend to run wild. We seek attention and praise. We become jealous and self-centered. We make decisions based on the perceived opinions of others instead of our own gut instincts. The older I get, the more I try to be aware of my own ego. I try to recognize when my superficial desires influence my behaviors, and I try to kill those feelings. I am a competitive person. I always have been, and I suspect I always will be. Being competitive isn't bad. I want to be successful, but I want to be successful by my own definition. That means setting aside comparisons and focusing on the task. It means being honest about the real purpose of every endeavor. That is how Mickey was able to come in dead last and still have the most fun. He wasn't burdened by ego. He wasn't trying to look cool. He wasn't hoping to impress anyone, and he didn't get discouraged by falling down. The goal was to have the most fun, so that's what Mickey did. He didn't worry about impressing people or looking cool. He didn't base his value on the possible perceptions of others. He didn't let his ego get in the way. That's a great formula for a happy, successful, and balanced life. When we understand the purpose of an endeavor, when we establish our own criteria for success, when we aren't defined by others, we might fall, but we'll finish the race. We might even have a little fun doing it. That concludes today's entry. And that is a real thing that I jotted down after that day, and it was some time ago, and it was something that's bounced around in my head, and I've thought of many times, and I have a lot of things like that I write down on scraps of paper or make notes on my computer, and sometimes I don't immediately sit down and write about them, or I write some notes, and this particular one I had jotted down several things right away and reflected on it many times, but hadn't come back to really finish writing a piece about it. But I thought it was just such a valuable lesson. Because I really do think at Mickey's age and for most of my life, I would have been frustrated and upset and angry. I honestly think at Mickey's age at that point, at 8 years old, if I had continued to fall down at a field day in elementary, I probably would have cried. Because I would have been worried what other people thought. I would have been frustrated by what I perceived as a subpar performance. But a lot of that would have had to do with ego, with worrying about how it looked or how I thought I was supposed to perform for some reason or another. And as I said, it's not bad to want to be successful, and it's not even bad to be competitive. We have to have a little bit of ego to want to be great at things. But that shouldn't be the driving force. When we let our egos dictate our actions, we base our value on comparisons. We base our value on the opinions of others. And that's always a dangerous thing. And I was so proud of Mickey in that moment for realizing what the day was really about. It was about having fun. And he and his partner in this three-legged race kept falling down and kept falling down. And they had the absence of ego to realize that it was funny and that it was fun. And that's what the experience was supposed to be. And I have tried, as I've gotten older, to set my ego aside and to try to really take notice when I am letting that ego creep in to some of my behaviors or some of my decision making. It's something I try to be really cautious about with all of these things, with any of my media endeavors or the things I've done with publishing a book or anything like that, where I never want it to be about likes and follows or book sales or anything like that. I genuinely appreciate any time that anybody spends, because time is so valuable. Any time that anyone spends interacting with any of this material. But for me, I want it to continue to be for the right reasons. I want to do these things because I feel compelled to do so, because I feel compelled to write about and talk about certain issues, and to hopefully put forth positive messages that just might make even one person's life even 1% better. That's the goal. And I don't want it to ever become about me inflating my own ego. I like to put the things out there and kind of stay away from it, to not spend a lot of time on social media or looking at things like that, because I don't want that to be the driving force. And it's funny how children sometimes understand things a lot better than we do. How there is a lot of wisdom in youth. And this was just another example of many, many things that my children have taught me. And that's a wonderful gift. I hope that everyone's having a fantastic week. I hope things are going well for you. Remember to check in with your own ego. Focus on the task at hand and create your own definition for success. Have a great one. Much love.